Alright, so welcome back. This is part 2 in our workflow. And in the last video, I showed you a little bit about Adobe Camera Raw, how to transition from that into working in Photoshop. And now I'm going to show you a few more things that are useful for Photoshop, that you can use in Photoshop to help you with your portfolio, and also how to process your image into a JPEG. So we did some little minor adjustments. I think I did show you how to go to image adjustments and then play around with brightness and contrast. You can also play around with the color balance as well. So it has a lot of the same features that that Adobe Camera Raw has. But it's actually changing your pixels, so that's why we don't want to, we'd rather edit in RAW as opposed to this. This is just for little tiny adjustments. Again, if you decide you don't like something, you can always go to Edit, step backwards, and undo it. Again, Edit, step forwards. To also view your history of what you have done over a period of clicks, you can go to the window. Sorry, go to view. Wait, it is window. Sorry, history. And it will bring up a window with all the things that you've done. So you can go back to that. The only problem is that once I close this out, it deletes all the other stuff that I've done, which I don't want to do. So I'm going to go back to here. So that's pretty useful. Again, if you haven't already, go up to Window, Workspace, and then make sure it's set on Photography. And then always make a duplicate image. We'll learn more about layers and how to use them on our next project. So, what you want to do now is resize your image. To do that, you're going to go up here to Image. You're going to scroll down to Image Size. And it'll bring up this context box. So you have width and height and resolution. You also should be seeing this in inches. So if it's not set in inches, it might be in pixels. Just click on this arrow and put it in inches. So this is a pretty big image. It's 18 by 12 inches, 300 resolution. So that's pretty big. That's awesome for printing. It's great for editing, but for posting on SmugMug and creating a digital portfolio that I can view on the screen, it's not really practical. So we're going to process this image and make it smaller and into a JPEG. You will still have your original RAW file intact, but it's going to basically just create two different file types. You'll have your image as a RAW, and then you'll have it as a JPEG. So just to clarify, width is going across your image. Height is going up and down. Okay? So I would say this was shot in a horizontal format where the width is the longest part of my picture. Some pictures are shot in a vertical format. So you can turn the camera when you're taking the picture, and the height will be the longest part of your picture. So please be careful when resizing your picture and understanding what width and height mean. So what you want to do is turn the resample off, and we're going to make our images about 9 by 6 or 6 by 9 inches, depending on how it's oriented. Mine has a horizontal orientation, so the longest part of my picture is the width. So I'm going to just plug in 9 for my width. Okay? And it's pretty close to 9 by 6. It's a little bit over. If it were oriented vertically, you would change the height. You would just plug in 9. These instructions are also on Finalsite in the bulletin. So you can also, to remember which numbers to plug in, you can always look back onto that as a resource. Then you turn the resample back on. And it did change to 8.99. I don't know why I did that, but that's fine. And then we want to change the resolution. See how it changed? It made the image smaller, but it also increased the resolution. So we don't need it to be 600. 300 is fine. So we're going to change it to 300, and then you hit OK. And it's going to resize the image. Now it actually resized it. It changed the pixels. Now it looks like it actually got smaller. It really didn't. It's just the view. So up here, when you're looking at, you have a picture open, it has this little title tab right here, and you can view it at a different percentage. So right now I'm viewing it at 12.5%. So you can zoom in just like you do in Adobe Camera Raw. There's a little magnifying glass down here. So I can zoom in if I want. To zoom out, you hit Alt and hold it down. You can zoom out. You can also go up to View, and you can do different viewing that way. You can zoom in like that. You can zoom out. You can do fit on screen, so that's the actual size of the picture. And so that's another way to zoom in on your picture. So we're going to save it as a JPEG now. To do that, we're going to go up to File, Save As. Okay, do not hit Save. If you do hit Save, what happens is it actually saves the image, and it'll save it'll save over your raw file. So we want to create a different file type. So you're going to hit Save As, and just save it in the same folder that your raw files are in. I hadn't named this yet, so I'm going to name it now. Yours is probably already named, so I'm going to name it say rule of thirds. And I'm going to put resized so that I know that's my JPEG. You'll be able to tell it's a JPEG too because of the file type. So that you want to save it as a file type. You don't want to save it as a Photoshop file. So we're going to hit the little arrow and we're going to scroll down, and you want to select JPEG. There's 3 different types. You want to select the first one you come across. It's this one. Click it, then hit Save. And then this is asking the quality. Mine's set to 12. If yours isn't, I think it's okay, but if you want to change it, like yours might be set to 8 or something, we do want a high quality, so just push it to a larger file and hit OK. And so now it's processed your image into a JPEG. So when you close out of this, I'm going to minimize it and go to my project folder. Sorry, I was in the wrong one. There is the raw file. There it was twice, and this is not my picture. I took one from a student. You'll see it here. So there are your raw files. Again, you can always open these, and they should open up in Adobe Raw, and you can make further edits if you decide to change something. And then this is the processed JPEG, and this is what you're going to upload to SmugMug. Okay, so you have to do that with each image. You have 11 to 12 images, and you want to edit them in Adobe Camera Raw, save your edits, open them in Photoshop, and then maybe if you need to edit a little bit more, you can, and then process them into a JPEG, resize them and process them, okay? And then you'll organize these into different subfolders. When you work in RAW and you open a RAW file in any sort of program, it's going to create something called a sidecar file, which is what these little XMP files are. So you see it has the same name. Just leave those. Those are fine. Those allow you to open RAW files in other programs like Lightroom and some other digital editing programs. It also allows you, if you do want to post them on a website, to do that as well. So just leave your little XMP files there. They're harmless. They're actually kind of useful. And that's how you do your workflow. So we're going to learn a little bit more, you know, obviously in depth about Adobe Raw and Photoshop, but this is just for the first project to get us started and do some basic editing. All right, if you have questions, just let me know and I'll be happy to help you. Thanks for listening. Oops, I forgot something. So one last thing you might want to do or consider doing is, as you are going through your pictures and processing them, editing and processing them, you might want to create a subfolder. So to do that, just right-click, New, Folder, and you might want to create a folder like Raw. I don't know why I'm having such trouble typing. Okay, and then you can put your edited raw files in there. So I'll move this one in there. And then you'll create another subfolder. So again, just click somewhere out in the white space, right click, New, Folder, JPEGs. And then move your process image, like this is the one that I actually resized and processed into a JPEG, into that folder. All right. Yeah, so there's my JPEG. And then this is my original raw file. So as you're picking the pictures and choosing them, which ones you want to use in your portfolio, you should have, again, two versions, a raw version and your JPEG version. And then just drag them into this folder. And then basically, once you've done that, your portfolio is complete. You'll upload this JPEG version to SmugMug, and you can have your RAWs available. We'll eventually print from one of these raw images later. After you finish your project, we'll print it large scale. So go ahead and start creating these subfolders for organizing your processed images, okay? And then just leave your other images. I know a lot of you like to delete. Don't worry about deleting right now, because we might use some of these images later for another project. So I think one thing students do sometimes is they delete too much, and you might actually delete a good picture. So try not to do that, okay? And then also you can move that XMP file. I forgot to move that in with your raw file. So make sure you do that too. Yeah. So try to have both the raw and the little XMP file that goes with it, and they should have the same title. All right, thanks for listening, and again, if you need help, just let me know.